So these are the limited edition bench chisels from Woodpecker, and they're very expensive. Probably basically the same as the blue spruce for less money. But I was a sucker, and sometimes I'm not always buying the best value, but I thought I'd give them a shot because they look nice. Everything else I have from Woodpeckers is pretty high quality. So always looking for nicer chisels. But I've discovered a pretty fatal flaw in the design of these chisels. And I'll explain that in a minute. But they sure look pretty hanging on the wall, don't they? What I like about these chisels is that this steel is excellent. Compared to my kind of entry-level Nerix, which I thought were quite a lot better than the box store chisels I started with a couple years ago, like the Stanley. The Nerix steel, and this is just the most basic level Nerix, is such a step up from the Stanley or Irwin or any of the box store brands, and maintain an edge quite well, easy to sharpen, very ergonomic handle too. Haven't had any problems, even though I've put them through a lot of use and I've traveled with them. So compared to the Nerix, the steel on this chisel from Woodpecker is just amazing. It is quite good. It came very sharp. I didn't have to touch it up at all from Woodpeckers, and I'm very impressed. It is a higher quality, I guess harder steel than even the basic Nerix I have. Now keep in mind, I'm just a hack hobbyist, so those of you who are very proficient in chisels might disagree, but I think the steel itself is excellent. The problem I'm having, and I first thought maybe this is because I'm left-handed, so I hold the chisels with my right hand and hit with my left, is that as I use them, there's some twisting action sometimes, right? Twisting action as you're moving the chisel, unless you're right on the edge. And what happens invariably, especially with the larger sizes, it begins to unscrew where it attaches to the handle. And no matter how hard I tighten this, it loosens up after maybe half a dozen strikes, unless I'm being very careful. And that to me is a pretty big flaw for a chisel that costs about $125 just for one in the set. So while I know Woodpeckers is going to have about 5 more sets in the series of chisels, I don't think I'll be buying the rest of the bench chisels, the completion set that'll be out this fall, or the others that are scheduled for the next couple of years because of this issue. I mean, the only thing I can think I could do is perhaps put some temporary thread locker or something in here. I thought about trying to put some plumber's tape in there and see if that would just tighten it up so that it wouldn't keep loosening. But this is a flaw, at least for me so far, unless there is a solution. I've not contacted Woodpeckers. It's just kind of embarrassing to spend this much money on a chisel where you have to constantly retighten the metal to the handle. And I will say the handle is not as comfortable as the wooden Nerix handle. Part of it might be the reason it's unscrewing is because the way I grip it. I'm gripping it, right? So I grip the Nerix through the whole wooden handle. Well, it's really awkward to just try to use the red portion of the Woodpecker's handle, which maybe that's what they designed it to only be used for, just this to hold it. I end up holding it, some of it down here. My hand, and I don't have huge hands, grips both the red part and the screw collet here. And that, I think, is a problem. So just be forewarned. They're very pretty. The steel is impressive. And I'm not sure if the Blue Spruce edition would have the same problem, but for over $500 for the set of 4 bench chisels, I feel a little bit like a fool for spending that much on a chisel that's going to look pretty on the wall, but when I need to use a chisel for a mortise, I'm going to be grabbing my good old trusty Nerix set.